So a guy in one of my other videos suggested that I drink a cup of coffee before my reviews, but I prefer cocaine. Ugh. Hey guys, Stuart Charles here, HomeStudioBasics.com, helping you make sound decisions. So today we're going to talk about the iFi xCAN versus the xDSD versus the Chord Mojo. And I'm glad I did that line of coke, because we got a lot to talk about.
Wow, unreal. My gosh.
So what does the xCAN come with? It comes with the amp DAC, 2.5mm balanced interconnect cable, a standard 3.5mm interconnect cable, USB Type-C charging cable, 4 Velcro strips, 1 that attaches to your phone, and 3 other ones that attach to the bottom of the unit. Let's get right into build. So the xCAN has a magnesium aluminum build. The xDSD also does. The Chord Mojo has just like a matte black finish, and it's not prone to fingerprints, while the other two are. They collect fingerprints very, very easily, but fortunately you can just wipe it off and it looks really, really good. Both the xCAN and the xDSD are 127 grams, while the Chord Mojo is 180. So the Mojo is a little bit heftier and a tad bulkier, so a little bit less conducive for portable use. But it also runs pretty hot. Supposedly it's normal for it to do that. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what Rob says over at Chord, and some other people have said it's not really a big deal over at Audio Advice. So it will run hot, so just be cognizant of that. On the xDSD there are no rubber feet. On the xCAN there are built-in rubber feet on the bottom, which I like much better than the xDSD doesn't have anything. So it kind of, when it sits on your desk, I feel more comfortable with the xCAN sitting on my desk because it doesn't move, and the rubber feet are really, really solid. Like, they stay in place. They're kind of like embedded into the bottom, built in. So it's a really, really good design. On the xCAN, on the front panel, we have balanced input, 3.5mm. So a balanced 2.5mm. A 3.5mm, a 3D plus an X bass button, and the combo power and volume rotary. And on the back panel, we've got a USB Type-C charging port, the standard 3.5mm and balanced 2.5mm line output. On the front of the xDSD, we have a 3.5mm /line out that utilizes 3.5mm TRRS or TRS. And on the rear, we got a SPDIF and an optical port. I used the xDSD with the supplied adapter for gaming, for console gaming, so that's cool. So with SPDIF, you can use it with your CD player or a separate DAP or something like that. On the rear, we also have a USB-A for your desktop and a micro USB, but this is for charging only. The Mojo has 2 micro USB slots, an optical and a coax. The coax can be paired with anything that allows audio out. Some examples include your gaming console, PC, laptop, smartphone, tablet, music player, or DAP. So very versatile there. The Mojo has 2 separate headphone jacks. It's really cool because you can compare headphones with these, or you can share. Like if you're watching a movie with somebody, you could share the Mojo, and both be listening at the same time. So I thought that was really cool. On the top of the Mojo, we have the 2 volume globes and a power globe. Both the xDSD and the Mojo can be used for gaming, console gaming, while the xCAN cannot. So in this case, we will call it the xCANot. First of all, I would classify this comparison to be the differences between the xCAN and xDSD, and then the differences between the xDSD and the Mojo, because the xCAN is not, it's mostly an analog device, and we'll get into that in a second. So first off, the xCAN utilizes an ESS Sabre DAC, but they didn't specify which one it is. So I really don't know. The amp section is the OV4627. The xDSD's DAC chip is the Burr Brown PCM 1793, and the amp section is also an OV4627. The main difference is that the xCAN is an analog device first primarily, while the xDSD is a digital device. So the xCAN is an amp first, a DAC second, while the xDSD is a DAC first, amp second. Now, the xCAN does have a DAC inside, but the jack chip can only be used for the conversion of the Bluetooth signal. Otherwise, it's purely an analog device. So, yeah, and it's also, the xCAN is also limited to 16-bit 44.1 or 48. and it supports AAC, aptX, aptX-LL, and SBC. It does not support LDAC. By contrast, the xDSD supports very high PCM files up to 768K and DSD 512. So same as the Mojo. The Mojo also supports up to 768 and 32-bit, I believe. Out of the SPDIF, the xDSD supports up to 24-bit 192K. Both power on via the rotary knob on the front. So it cycles between green and blue. Green is for wired, blue is for Bluetooth, obviously. So just hold it and then wait until it gets on the one you want, then let go. When you turn it off and back on, it resumes from the one that you were last playing at. So yeah, before you do anything, charge these because they will die on you if you aren't paying attention to how much you've been using them, because obviously they're battery powered, and it's not a downside, but it's a little bit of an inconvenience. So both have the multifunction on the front, and it's the same. You press once for X-Bass, twice for 3D Plus, a third time for both, and a fourth time switches them off. Now on the xCAN, that same button also can be utilized to start up Bluetooth. Now on the xDSD, there are small LEDs to indicate what mode you're in. So flashing green is awaiting source, green is for wired, red/blue cycle means that the Bluetooth is pairing up, and blue equals you're in wireless mode. Because the xCAN is lacking a pure DAC, it actually allows the unit to last longer on the battery, so that's kind of a good thing. So the life indicator, white is greater than 75%, green is 25 to 74%, red is 10 to 24%, and flashing is less than 10% life. And that is the same on both. Whew, had to re-up on that cocaine.
Stop with those fucking drugs. They're making your mind into mush. You hear me? Take them back.
While you're listening to music, both the xCAN and the xDSD cycle through a ton of different colors. So red is the highest. That goes from 0 decibels to -9. Yellow is -27 to -10. You will find yourself probably the majority of time in the yellow. It's nice and loud, but it's not ear-piercing. Green is -45 to -28. Cyan, -63 to -46. Now between cyan and magenta, you barely hear anything. Magenta is -81 to -64 dB. And so blue is -101 to -82 decibels. Press once to mute it, and then it'll flash between whatever volume color you're at and a darkish, it's not like a red, it's like a really, really dark red. Also, white equals line output. Now, a few other differences between the xDSD and the xCAN is the xDSD does not have the X-Bass section on the back. Depending on your music taste, you can have bass plus presence, just bass presence, or just 3D presence. I think that's a pretty cool feature on the xCAN. It adds a lot of nice soundstage width to a headphone like the HD600, and it helps not only with jazz, it helps with all recordings. It kind of opens up the 600s because, as you know, they have sort of a more narrow image, which is why I really like both the xDSD and the xCAN because of that feature alone. It makes it well worth the price because you can kind of tinker and customize the sound to your liking. The xDSD also utilizes USB-A. Because it's a DAC, you can plug it into your laptop. With the xCAN, obviously you cannot. You have to use some sort of DAC with it. The xDSD also has no measure and listen switch. Now, I didn't really use this much. The measure is more detail retrieval and clarity, while the listen feature is warmer and more enjoyable. I guess this would really come in handy if I was mixing down a track. I have not mixed down a track with the xCAN, so get into the habit, like I said earlier, of charging all of these, especially the Mojo. You get 4 hours charge time for 10 hours of playback. It's a little bit on the low side for me. I feel like a lot of the time the units just go dead. At least the Mojo goes dead quicker than I would like. But you can charge and play music at the same time if you have 2 USB cables, which they're pretty cheap, so I would definitely recommend, like, you should probably have at least 10 of those lying around because they're so common and they're so cheap. Use the micro USB with the lightning bolt over top to charge, and then use the other one to listen to music. And the other one will have the USB symbol on it or above it. For the Mojo, there's also a small LED on the side, When it's blue, it's fully charged. Green is 75%, yellow is 50%, and red is 25%. And when it's flashing red, it's less than 10 minutes of life. To power on the Mojo, hold it for 2 seconds and it'll come on. It cycles through many different colors depending on what source file you're on. Red is 44.1, orange is 48, yellow is 88.2, green is 96, light blue is 176, dark blue is 192, light purple is 352, purple is 384, so like darker purple. Plum is 768, and light plum is equal to DSD. So the volume buttons also change colors depending on what level you're at, and those colors match the same colors that we just talked about with source file. So we'll quickly get into ergonomics and power outputs. For the xDSD, we're getting 500 milliwatts at 16 ohm, 270 milliwatts at 50 ohm, 48 milliwatts at 300 ohm, and 24 milliwatts at 600 ohm. For the xCAN out of the single-ended, we're getting 45 milliwatts at 300 ohm, 380 milliwatts at 32 ohm, and 600 milliwatts at 16 ohms. So out of the balanced jack, we're getting 90 milliwatts at 600 ohms, 800 milliwatts at 64 ohms, and 1000 milliwatts at 32 ohms. Last but not least, the Chord Mojo provides 35 milliwatts into 600 ohm and 720 milliwatts into 8 ohm. The main takeaway here is that you're not going to have to worry about power. All three of these provide plenty into various impedance loads. Like the xDSD and xCAN both provide 48 and 45 milliwatts into 300 ohm respectively. For clarification's sake, the HD600 only requires 20. So last but not least, how do these sound? Between the xCAN and the xDSD, there's really not that much difference. It kind of more depends on the DAC that you're using in conjunction with the xCAN. The raw sound of both of these is more or less identical. It's a very clean sound, but it also has a hint or a touch of warmth to it, so it's not completely neutral in my estimation. If you think of sound as a cone, a unit like the xCAN or xDSD acts as those missing gaps of information that get filled in. You start to hear the lost artifacts that kind of tie everything together.
That rug really tied the room together, did it not?
Fucking A.
This guy peed on it.
Music also might start to sound foreign to you, as if you've heard for the first time songs you've heard many times before. This is a running theme with audiophile gear. This is one of the best ways I can describe the sound when that veil is lifted. There are times when you can almost swear the track was re-recorded. The 3D Plus is not only useful for jazz, but also other genres as well. It just makes the music sound more intimate, present, lively, engaging, articulate, and clear. So there's like sort of this muddy character that happens even with the HD600 and the MDR V6, as well as some other headphones. I noticed that when I switched on the 3D Plus, everything kind of just became more clear and articulate and less like kind of boxed in sounding. I thought that was pretty amazing. It really does improve the HD600 across the board. As far as the xDSD versus the Chord Mojo, overall the Mojo is going to sound a little warmer, but still very detailed. It's a little bit better of a sound in my opinion. I never forget the first time I heard the Mojo with the Mr. Speaker's Ion Flow closed. It was jaw-dropping. I mean, I wasn't really expecting to be as floored as I was. So very, very intimate. I would say that's one of the main differences, is the intimacy of listening through a Mojo is greater than that of listening through pretty much any amp that I've tried, save for a few. But the differences between the xDSD and the Mojo, there are some. They're pretty subtle. I would say the xDSD performs almost as well as a Mojo. I just think the Mojo has an edge when it comes to vocal intimacy, attack, sustain, and decay. Things are just a little bit more clear and more lush. That's another good word to describe the sound of the Mojo. So final word, in comparison to the other two, the Mojo will sound a little bit warmer and more enjoyable while still retaining that immaculate sense of detail that the xDSD and xCAN do both provide in spades. So smallish differences, but still noticeable. Out of these three, I would take the Mojo for pure sound and the xCAN for convenience and features. The xCAN is a lot more, it's geared towards the beginner enthusiast, and it's just a lot more intuitive and easy to use. I mean, I just love that thing a lot because you can do so many things with it. Compare it with any DAC. You compare it with your phone via a 3.5 millimeter interconnect, or your laptop if your laptop has a decent DAC, or you compare it with your phone wired or wireless. So there's just a lot of things you can do with the xCAN. So that's about it for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my growing channel. Let me know what I can do to improve. Let me know what I do well. Let me know what you would like to see next. And with that,
Check 1 2. Hope you enjoyed this review too. It was brought to you by Stu, who, me, the lyrical G, empirical dreams slide through like dream. PC gaming, letting off steam, got bars for days like a prison inmate. A misdemeanor's fate, no debate. When I wake up, okay, start my day with a cup and I pray. I don't faint, I'm a saint of the Most High God, of the Most High God.
I told you a long time ago, you fucking little monkey, not to fuck me.
Hey, who the fuck you think you're talking to, huh?
You wanna fuck?
Who the fuck you think I am, you fucking dumb boy? Come on, brother. Do you want to go to war? Come on. Do you want to go to war? We'll take you to war, okay? Tony.
oh. Hey guys, Stuart Charles here, HomeStudioBasics.com, helping you make sound decisions. So, Alright, so let's get right into